Hey everybody, welcome to the PixelBlips podcast. I'm Andy Ryan, that's Dave DeWart. Dave, what'd you play this week?
I played something new and I played a lot of something old. I played a lot of WoW this week. I got the...
Playing it with your wife?
Yeah. I mean, the missus got to level cap, so we've kind of been doing, questies type stuff.
And you're doing the Pandarian expansion?
Yeah, it's Panda Land. It's like Kung Fu Panda everywhere.
Wait, you don't like pandas?
They're okay.
Pandas are the second most deadly bear, apparently, after Kodiak grizzlies. Because they're extremely territorial.
But pandas aren't bears. They're marsupials. Ooh.
Anyway, go ahead.
So we've been doing that. I found out that she really... because they have a pouch.
Where's the pouch? But the kid doesn't stay in the pouch.
It does for like a week or two. It's born really early, and then it's like this big, and then it grows to be about this big, and then it pops out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like are red pandas then? I guess red pandas would be marsupials. Pandas are definitely marsupials.
They're kind of like kangaroos, but without the big tails and the jumping.
Yeah, red pandas big because red pandas carry their young on their back for a while.
A little while, yeah. But yeah, either way, panda bears aren't necessarily bears. But yeah, so we've been doing that.
Also extremely territorial. So if you see a panda in the wild, congratulations, you're in China and it's almost extinct.
Or you.
And how does the bamboo look?
or you fell into the exhibit at the zoo.
Yeah.
So
I immediately regret this decision. Anyway.
So I found out my wife does not like doing group content, which is a bit of a conundrum in an MMO.
I was going to make a really bad joke, but I like your wife, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, no. So doing 5 mans is pretty much out of the question.
I totally support her decision to not do 5 men. Got it. You gotta. I'm trying really hard, but you gotta stop leading me into these things.
You know what? I'm using the terminology that the people who play WoW would know. But so yeah, doing small group content and even large group content like raids and whatever, she's not a fan of because she doesn't like playing with other people. Like the only reason she plays the game is so that we can hang out and do something together, and we're kind of just. And doing something other than watching TV.
Yeah, and you've already blown through Diablo 3.
And yeah, we've killed Diablo 3 enough times to not want to play to Paragon level 100 or whatever the hell it is. So, it's kind of tough. And then there's like a couple areas that you have to unlock by doing these single-person instances, which makes it, she wants nothing to do with those. So we're kind of gated by the stuff that she does and doesn't want to do. But that's okay, because I can do all that stuff on my own.
And you have another coupley game on the horizon, right?
Yeah, I do. But what did you play this week?
So my sister-in-law was in town, my youngest sister-in-law, and I say youngest, she's a lot younger than us. And we played a couple things because she doesn't have a PlayStation, so we played some Bomberman Ultra. She'd never played Bomberman before.
Because Bomberman is the shit.
Yeah, when I was scrolling through my download list, and she was like, "What's Bomberman?" And I was just like gobsmacked, like, "Oh."
Wait a minute. Yeah, that's right.
You have to do like the mental math of like, okay, when the first Bomberman came out, she wasn't born. Yeah. Okay, like
yeah. You have to. So you exposed a kid to some really classic games.
Well, not just classics, but Bomberman we played. Yeah. We played Critter Crunch. She never played Critter Crunch before.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
I really like Critter Crunch.
Isn't that kind of like Magical Drop, where you bring the things down and then throw them back up, and it's like match 3?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's an interesting match 3 because you have to kind of like feed the different size critters to other critters.
Oh.
So you got to kind of use a food chain. So the small ones go to the medium ones, the medium ones go to the large ones. By the time, if you get them to swallow 2 things, they'll explode.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, we also played some PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, which she loved. And the minute she got Kratos, she started kicking my ass.
Well, Kratos is a little overpowered, but that's okay.
Like, it's just, like, it really sings to the fact that it's sad that they're not doing any more DLC, but it sings to the fact that they did a good design on that game. Maybe not for, like, competitive fighterness, but for, like, that Smash Brothers type, anyone can jump in and play.
It's a fun game that doesn't have a real steep learning curve. Yeah. So that's cool.
And she still had fun with it. And the first time she knocked off a level 3 and Kratos grew to a giant size, and
just started
my little Raiden was running away all the time. She was having a ball. It was really cool. So.
Good.
I've also bought and played Dragon's Crown on my Vita, which is what we're talking about this week, as you can tell by the title under the video. So I bought the Vita version. Oh, it's in its nice blue case, and it still hits me every time I get one of these. I hadn't bought a
retail
Vita card since Persona 4. So it's been since November. So every time, it had been a while.
It's almost been a year then.
Yeah, kind of. But every time I get one of these, it strikes me like just dumbfounded every time I take it out of the box that this is smaller than a Nintendo cartridge.
It is.
The box that the thing comes in is smaller than a Nintendo cartridge.
But the games themselves are
just
smaller
it's not
than
even in here.
a DS card. Well, it's in my Vita.
So it's mine. It's mine, my Vita.
That's why I brought the boxes.
Yeah. So, but like the card itself is so tiny, and it just like it was hard for my wife thought I was just an idiot, but it was hard to explain like how like mind effing that is.
It is.
Because like you remember the Atari carts were just like beasts.
Oh yeah,
in and out.
But I mean, maybe we came to this late because neither of us own a DS, and DS games are the same way. They come in a little box, and they're like these tiny cards, or
Itty bitty cards.
not as small as a Vita card, but still they're pretty small cartridges.
But then you compare like for me it was just like the DS card and the graphics on the DS were like okay I can kind of see
yeah,
that.
you could see
But like
why
the
it's
thing that's on the Vita card is just always mind blowing to me. Like I've only gotten one Vita game on a card that I was like, and that was Mod Nation.
yeah. Well, when you're talking, because this game is mostly two-dimensional.
Gorgeous effing art.
I mean, yeah, but it's mostly static backgrounds that are just two-dimensional paintings that you're walking across.
Yeah, parallax scrolling.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that going on.
I mean, the backgrounds in
really
this game,
great.
I just want to
Jump in and run around.
they're so great.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You feel like they, to paraphrase, it belongs in a museum.
It does. Maybe without all the characters, but that's okay.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about. So, how long have you played the game for?
I bought
it
it yesterday after work, and I put maybe 2 hours into it. I was playing it when you showed up this morning.
Okay, so I've clocked about 4.5, 4:45.
So you've played more than I have.
Yeah, and I'm getting close to on the Vita and on the normal game, the PS3 game, which Dave also has.
Yeah, I have both versions because my wife will play.
That's not going to stand up.
No, it won't. I have the PS3 version because my wife said she wanted to play with me.
Couch co-op?
Yeah, because you can play.
I love that term.
You can play 4-player on the couch, or you could play by yourself at the house with three other people over the internet.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you can play.
No, not
you
cross.
You can't play cross.
Not crossplay. Not crossplay. Not cross-buy. Cross-save.
Yeah, so you can use the same save on the Vita as you can on the PS3 version.
Yeah.
But you can't use your Vita and your buddy's playing on the TV.
Yeah, it's not like PlayStation All-Stars.
It is. That would be a neat feature. Maybe they'll work that in later. I don't know if there's a way they can bolt that onto the side or not. But I mean, it is nice that if you're playing at home, you get pretty far, and then you leave for work, you take your Vita with you, and then on your lunch break or whatever, you can sit and you can continue your character. And when you get home, all you got to do is upload that save and then re-download it when you boot it up on your PS3.
Okay, so for reviewing things, everything starts at a 10, and then you start ticking off boxes. So the reason that this
is how most review sites work anyway. As far as we know, we don't work for review sites. We really don't do game reviews.
Well, if I were to review anything, that's how I would do it.
It would start at whatever the max
perfect.
is, and then you would start chipping pixels off.
Yeah, everything starts perfect because for that, I think that gives you a rosier view of the game industry, whereas if you start at 0 and try to build up, everything ends up, this sucks.
Yeah, everything winds up being crappy.
So I start expecting perfect and then ticking off boxes. So one of the reasons I would tick off a box, maybe half a point to a whole point, is that you have to complete the main storyline before the online mode is activated.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
So in this game, the PS3 version, you can do couch co-op the minute you put it in. But in this game, you can't co-op until you've beaten
the game once.
Well, the what they consider the main storyline, which is supposedly only 5 hours. And I've read...
So you'd probably be getting close to the end of it now.
Yeah. I think I'm at the last dungeon, the 9th. Anyway, I've read an interview with one of the designers, and they said, that was on purpose. We felt like you needed to know how to play that class before going online, so you're not effing up other people's games.
Well, that's true, and I mean, and that's a good design philosophy when you think about it. Is if you know what you're doing, you know that they know that you have played through the game enough to understand at the very least some of the basic
finites of that class.
Yeah, and you've kind of got your stuff built up to where if you pick up stuff, you'll get life back, or you'll do extra damage when you don't have your weapons on you, things like that.
So my only thing is I agree with that design philosophy, but I don't agree with putting stuff behind a wall.
A wall like that. Yeah, that they're gating one of the features
so it's a pro
behind your completion of the game.
It's a pro and it's a con.
Yeah.
So the only other thing I don't like about Dragon's Crown is that it's really easy. It's just like Golden Axe. It's really easy to lose your character in a melee.
It is. I mean, I've noticed on the Vita version, and maybe on the PS3 because I haven't played the PS3 version yet. I just bought it last night and I played the Vita version. My wife just kind of crashed out on the couch watching TV. But I've noticed there is like a little red icon over your head, but with all the fire.
And there's a little red circle around.
And there's a red circle around your character too, kind of just to show like your melee range. I'm assuming.
No, it's to show where you are.
It's just to show where you are. Okay.
But it's so thin and you don't notice it.
It is really hard to see at some points during the game because you've got especially if you're playing with the AI party, you then have 4 adventurers plus all the monsters plus all the stuff on the screen that's destructible or the crap you got to click on.
Yeah, when you get to the genie, it's kind of when the genie shows up the first time, it's really hard to figure out where you are.
Yeah. But that's just the nature of a beat 'em up, right? Yeah. Like in order to make it interesting, they kind of have to throw a bunch of stuff at you.
So once again, a pro and a con.
Yeah.
So we're getting kind of the minutia of the game, and then there's things I really like. Things I really like are like the skill trees and how there's a common skill tree and a specialized skill tree.
Yeah. That was kind of interesting. Digging through, it's like I'm looking and like one of the generic skills, whatever you want to call them, is whenever you pick up stuff, you can get life. Yeah, whenever you get money, you can pick up a little bit of life with it. And then like one of the dwarf specific one is whenever you pick up an artifact, like not money, you will also get life back.
Oh, yeah, that's not on the elf.
A little bit of it anyway.
Yeah, I'm playing the elf, Dave's playing the dwarf.
Yeah.
So I really like that. I really enjoy the combat. It feels good.
It's simplistic, but it also has enough nuance where, according to Andy,
I mean, it's a good.
The classes play vastly different than each other. I mean, you could still probably make it through if all you did was mash square and jump.
Well, not as the archer, but
yeah, you could sit and mash the button and kind of dodge around and still be fine.
But the good thing is that there's also that depth there where like I'm playing as an elf. I think I'm level 14 the last time I checked.
I'm like 6, I think.
And I've gotten pretty good at being able to juggle people, juggle monsters, because my kick, your short range kick, it doesn't do a lot of damage, but you're supposed to combo it up.
You're supposed to do that for a little while to kind of get them off balance, and then you can knock them back, shoot them a few times with a special ability or whatever.
Yes. So I've gotten really good at like juggling guys across the screen, and then if they're still alive, jumping in the air and doing the downward arrow shot, and that usually kills them.
I saw my NPC archer do that, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, the watching the elf is like a treat.
Yeah, it's like watching a Street Fighter.
Yeah.
A high-level Street Fighter player just go to town.
Yes, it's good. And same with the fighter. That's why I said my second class would probably be the fighter.
I don't know if what I want to play second. The dwarf is all melee, so I probably would choose either like the sorceress or the archer just to have the range.
Or the wizard.
Yeah, I keep forgetting about the wizard. Like, everybody's been focused on...
Well, we'll get to that.
Some other characters, and then it's like, oh, damn, there is a 6th class.
Yeah. And that's the other thing I like. I like how when you go to start the game, your first quest, they're like, okay, here's the fighter. He's for really easy characters. If you haven't
completely new guys.
Yeah, if you haven't played a beat 'em up before, you don't know how this is gonna work. Go with the fighter.
Yeah, and it has like it tells you, it gives you a small description of how they play, and it also says like beginner, intermediate, expert. It has all that kind of stuff.
So you start with the fighter, which is like a real easy melee class. Then you move on to the dwarf and the Amazon or the next.
Yeah,
because the dwarf has a throw.
Yeah, the dwarf throw guys. I don't know what the Amazon does.
Well, I've heard everyone swear by the Amazon. Apparently, the Amazon, if she can combo it up, she does more damage and strikes faster the more she strikes.
Oh, okay. So she just has a stacking haste buff, basically.
Yeah, so she's basically like a combo machine.
That's cool.
And then the elf, and then the wizard and the sorceress. Because the wizard and the sorceress have to bank mana, the elf has to bank arrows, which I've totally ran out of arrows more times than I can
really?
count.
Okay, so that explains, because I just picked up, because one of the other, well, whatever. I just picked up an elf as one of the party members. I found the body and then I resurrected it.
Whatever. Yeah, which is another thing I like.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
You kind of get a choice of what level you want to pair yourself up with.
Yeah.
In the dungeons, there'll be pile of bones. You pick up the bones. You take the bones to the shrine. The shrine resurrects them, and you have an NPC
you can choose to bring them with you, and they have their own gear. You can't change their gear.
Nope.
Which I thought was kind of crappy because you can get gear for the other characters.
So.
But you can't, you have no use for it other than to just vendor it.
But that's the point. The NPCs won't level up when
you play
with them.
So once you out-level them, you'll just have to replace them.
Yeah. So it makes sense you wouldn't want to keep shoveling equipment on them.
I mean, it would be nice to have, a party the whole time. If you had, your little group of, the dwarf, the elf, and then the fighter with one of the two casters, that'd be great. But And it would be nice to see it level up, but it also kind of forces you to have to keep looking for corpses in.
Yeah, but I think like a lot of the meat that of the game is the online multiplayer, and we haven't gotten to that yet.
Yeah, no, neither of us have tried that out because we haven't beat the Vita version. So.
Yes. So let's see, what else do I like? I like the comboing, I like how the difficulty's set up. I love the art design.
Yeah, I mean
with caveats.
Yeah,
on
there's
a lot of things that I'm
like the weird pervy stuff.
Which we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Like we can get into that now. So a lot of the controversy surrounding Dragon's Crown, going into the thing, is has to do with the artist George Kamatani. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. If it's not, I apologize. George Kamatani did Muramasa, which I love. I think it's...
Wasn't that another Atlas game?
Or
no?
No, it was Ignition. It was Ignition. Okay.
I was thinking Odin Sphere, I think.
So on the Wii, I would say Muramasa is the best game.
Yeah. You know what? I saw that for the Vita yesterday, too.
I know.
I was like, oh...
It came out early. It was just one of those things. It came out earlier this summer, and I just was like, I have to wait for Dragon's Crown.
Yeah.
I can't be blowing too much money. So I love Muramasa. I liked Odin Sphere back in the day. Going all the way back to like, he was on Valkyrie Profile. He was on, I'm trying to remember. He was on one other thing.
He's done a lot of projects that have a lot of very distinctive artistic features.
Like a look.
Yeah.
And he was one of the artists on my favorite arcade game, Dungeons & Dragons Tower of Doom and Dungeons & Dragons Shadows over Mystara.
Which just came out on the PSN a little while ago.
Yeah, so if you can't afford Dragon's Crown, you don't want to jump into it yet for whatever reason.
These are both at like retail prices.
Yeah, full retail price.
That's 50, that's 40.
If you can't get this yet, I would highly recommend spending that $15 on Shadows over Chronicles of Mystara, Dungeons & Dragons from Capcom.
Yeah.
So I really love George Kamatani's art. The backgrounds in this game are amazing. The character design for the wizard, for the elf, I really like.
Yeah.
But I read an interview with him. What he's trying to do is take fantasy art, like Frank Frazetta, 1970s and 80s fantasy art, and Renaissance art, and marry the two of them together and then take it to the nth degree. And taking it to the nth degree means that most of the women here in this game are
very top heavy.
Breasts that are not possible. Like you would fall over.
Yes.
Or your back would break.
Yes. Or in the case of the Amazon, a very square butt.
Yeah. The Amazon has a posterior that looks like it was built with bricks.
Yeah. But she's an Amazon.
Yeah. Super strong.
But then you also have to think, like, the dwarf is impossibly
the dwarf is just all upper body and like two little legs.
He's got two teeny tiny little bitty legs.
And the fighter is also the same way.
The fighter is very like an upside down triangle. He's got huge
you
shoulders
get the idea
and
that
arms,
like
but he's got
when he
no
takes
legs.
his helmet off,
he's got a very tiny little head.
You get the idea that he's kind of like sitting inside a giant mech.
It's kind of like that scene in Beetlejuice where the guy shrinks his head. It's just like that. Huge shoulders, very tiny little head.
And so the thing that kind of I don't like about the art style is that both the sorceress and the Amazon and the magic trading person and the magic shop owner.
Yeah, the magic shop, the vendor that in the game, basically.
All have very small heads with what I would consider prepubescent facial features. Like they look.
Yeah, they look younger than they are.
They look
younger than
girls.
they should be. Yeah.
Yes.
But as we were talking about before, they're fantasy characters.
Yeah,
they can look however they want.
Yeah. So people have brought up that the fairy in the Goblet of Mead, which I think is like one of the best, funniest images from the game, and it's not offensive to me.
No, I don't find offense with a lot of it. I think maybe they shouldn't have gone like the DOA route of having a boob jiggle counter type of deal. But,
and there's a lot of boob jiggle.
Yeah, especially when you have a sorceress in your group.
The sorceress is in bad need of some support. And people are offended by that.
And rightfully so. Like it is very, very noticeable. That is what one of the biggest things that I've seen on the internet is those two characters specifically, the Amazon and the sorceress.
Yes.
But you don't I have not seen any backlash about how the dwarf and the other character, the fighter, look.
Yeah.
And
that's
kind of a one-sided thing. It's
that's true. But I think a lot of it is taking this art style to the nth degree.
And that was the point.
And part of that is you have to then accept that, okay, well, people are going to have a problem with this.
Yeah. And Kotaku did I believe they did an interview with the guy, and he was like, well, that was kind of the point of the whole situation.
Yeah, like he understood that there was going to be this backlash.
And he's glad that people are saying that they don't like it.
Yeah.
But either way, it's free press for him.
Yeah. Like his thing is like,
his game, right?
Well, and I respect him on one level of he's an artist, and he was basically saying like, I understand people are going to be put off by it. Like, people have been put off by like things like heavy metal and that the fantasy art that this is based on way before. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm a big Conan fan.
Yeah.
I have a lot of Conan art books, and it's just like there's a woman in a chainmail bikini. That's just the art style.
I mean, but some of it, like some of the other weird things about this game, specifically the Vita version. Well, it probably does it on the PS3 as well, but you don't have the touch screen.
You have to use the right stick. That's why I went the Vita version, because
you can't use the right stick and the right screen, the screen at the same time. But it's like there's little messages, and that was the one thing that kind of really was like, okay, that's just too much.
Like there's a line, and you're just kind of like, you can go up to the line, and we're cool with it.
They're like leaning over it, going, hey, hey, hey. Or like when you're at the...
Like it just makes it more pervy, like the mermaid.
Yeah. I haven't got to the mermaid yet.
Okay, so the mermaid picture is all over the internet.
Is it the one with the woman in the sheer dress, or no? Is that
no? That's a different person. So the mermaid is basically a naked woman, like every other mermaid is, and that's cool. Like I'm fine with that.
It's a mermaid.
Okay, so but normally mermaid, the mer part of the maid starts somewhere right below her navel.
Yeah.
Like before you would get to her genitals.
Yeah.
Okay, so this mermaid is lying on her stomach with an impossible, what we call in comic books, the broke back.
Yeah.
If you've never heard the term the broke back.
Just look at like a couple of Black Widow comics. You'll see what you're talking about.
So the comic book term the broke back is kind of like girl in the refrigerator. It's a wink and a nod to the perviness of it and the fact that it's a male dominated medium. Is the broke back is so that the woman's somehow breasts
you can see her butt
and her butt are at the same time, which would literally break your back, which is called the broke back. So this mermaid is in what I would consider laying on her stomach in a broke back, and the mer part of the maid starts right underneath her butt. So she still has a human butt, and I'm like, that's kind of pervy. Yeah. Like that's the line. You went over the line. I'm now kind of uncomfortable with this.
And the other part of it is like on the Vita version.
You can touch her and she wiggles.
Yeah, you could touch different parts of the characters and little messages will pop up at the bottom. Like the message for the vendor is, if you touch around on her boob area, it will say breast area. It will say you better watch your hands if you want to keep them or something like that. But then there's other ones where
okay, so I would like when that one popped up, I would like it if it would be less pervy if you kept doing it.
You got thrown out of the
You got thrown out and like prices went up or something. Like there was a negative
there was a negative negative reaction to what you were doing.
But once again, we're just talking about he has this art style. It's taking this kind of Renaissance, because it does look, a lot of it, especially the backgrounds, really do look like Renaissance art.
Oh yeah, the backgrounds and the enemy designs, at least the ones I've run into, it's mostly orcs and goblins and skeletons and whatever. But all that stuff looks great, and the animation.
And Renaissance art is like wall to wall naked women and boobs.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it does have a lot of nudity in it.
Yeah, like Renaissance art, like no woman has. There's no A cups, is what I'm saying.
No.
Like there are boobs in Renaissance art.
Yeah.
And as opposed to breasts. And once again, in Renaissance art, it was mostly men painting Renaissance art.
Yeah.
So we get back into this area where this is inspired by fantasy art, which is drawn and painted by men, and Renaissance art, which is drawn and painted by men, depicting the female form, taking that
mostly drawn and painted by.
Combining those two things, taking it to the nth degree, there are times where it steps over the line.
Yeah, there are, and I'll admit that like
a good metric for me is like, do I want to play this at work, or do I want to play this on my coffee break?
Would you be comfortable playing this in a public place?
Yes. No, not necessarily. Like if after I get through the game and I know what's coming up, like I'd be fine with it. Like a lot of the enemy designs. Yeah. Like the spirits. The spirit's my favorite enemy design so far. You haven't gotten to it. No. The ghost is basically it has like a veil on, and then it's a skeleton under the veil, and it's kind of floating. But sometimes when it floats, it looks like there's actually like a face in the veil.
Yeah,
so it kind of looks translucent, and I love it. I think that's an excellent art design. Same thing with the genie. A lot of the bosses, I really like.
The bosses are pretty impressive.
The bosses look amazing, which is George Kamatani is known for that. Like the bosses in Muramasa looked like jaw-dropping.
That was one of the things, like after reading a few different reviews of this, that was one of the things that everybody kind of pointed out was the bosses are the best part about this game as far as the gameplay mechanics and like the
gameplay
pure
and the art comes
artistic
together.
style in it are the big boss characters.
Yeah, there's a boss fight where the genie pops up, and it's the most fun I've had in this game.
Okay.
It was super cool, and I was like, oh, that's a genius game design thing, and I love how the dungeons look. That first dungeon that you walk into that's kind of the flooded ruins, and you can see in the background like all the statues and the Colosseum-esque thing, and it looks really good.
Yeah.
And I really like part of the problem is this art design is so good I want to shout it from the rooftops, but there are parts of it that are not.
They're like 85 to 90% of the art style in this game is just absolutely awesome, and then there's like that last 10 to 15% is pretty kind of questionable. Maybe you should have dialed it back a little bit.
Yeah, they're like you went for it, you got it 98% of the time.
But that's what he went for, and this is what he knew he was going to get into.
Yeah, so 2%. That I think the percentage is a good idea. So like he went for it, he nailed it. Like it looks totally awesome. I'm totally 100% behind it. 90% of the time.
Yeah.
There were two things that like he went for it, he took it, he went far with it.
Now, and not
and
to
it
say
just went too far for my taste.
Not to say that he's the only guy that worked on this,
No,
right?
true,
Like he probably had 2 or 3 other guys, but he basically what I understand he had, say as to whether or not he wanted this in the game or whether or not he thought this should go to the next guy up.
It's like an off-kilter analogy for it would be, for my taste, I really like the movie Taxi Driver, right? Or really love Taxi Driver, but there's that rape scene.
Yes.
With Jodie Foster. And young Jodie Foster. And it kind of dials back, like, do I want to, like, scream Taxi Driver from the rooftops? Same thing with the Quentin Tarantino movie. I really love Quentin Tarantino movies, but they're so violent. Like, do I really want to be, like, 100% behind that?
Yeah.
Or is that over the line? And when you have an artist that's pushing the boundaries, occasionally it's going to go over that line.
Yeah.
And, like, I understand that. I accept that. The flip side of it is I also totally am 100% behind anyone who is offended by it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Like, I could see why somebody would be offended by this game or parts of this game. And you know what? You don't, as far as the characters, the playable characters, you don't have to have an Amazon or Sorceress in your group.
No,
you
you
never
don't.
have to play with those. And if you play online, you may see them. You can either leave the game and just play whatever, or not play online.
Yeah.
The scenes where you actually have to like make the choice of to do this.
Like you don't have to tap the ladies.
You don't have to touch the screen. You don't have to do any of that stuff.
No, that's totally optional. If you want to be pervy, it lets you be pervy, which is one of the things I like. I just wish there was a negative reinforcement for that.
Yeah.
But so let's talk about the Polygon review and the resulting controversy, because the controversy around Dragon's Crown isn't just the art style.
Well, no, it's not just the art style, and it's also been going on for quite a while.
Yeah.
Like people have been talking about Dragon's Crown for a very long time. Like it was a Dreamcast game.
Yeah, it's been in development for a while.
A very long time.
So the Polygon review.
It was, I mean, so the reviewer who did it, I don't remember her name, did not, like one of her big criticisms was the art style.
Yeah, she was offended by the art style.
She wasn't just the art style, right?
Yeah.
Like she said that
it gets repetitive.
The gameplay gets repetitive because you have to keep going back to the same places to do the branching paths. Because there's like 1 or 2 in each one, right? Like there's the main path and then there's a secondary and maybe
once you get later onto the game, I think there's even another path.
There are multiple branching paths in some of these dungeons. But you have to play through the same stuff over and over again.
But she did highlight in a separate box the art style. And oh my God, the internet. So they gave it a 6.5.
6.5.
6.5, which
out
isn't
of
bad.
10 on their scale.
Yeah, isn't bad.
No.
But the internet blew up in the comments.
Oh yeah, everybody was like, well, you're just
like, how dare you have a woman review this?
Yeah.
Of course she's offended because she's a woman. Like, men can be offended by this too.
In typical sexist internet fanboy style, that's what happened.
Which is kind of.
I mean, I see her points as far as the way the characters are drawn, and her comments towards the player characters. They have the agency. They're powerful women characters, and then you have the NPCs that are
just there to be eye candy.
But one of the one of the first quests you're sent on is to go find a guy who got captured in a dungeon, or to find his body and then bring it back or whatever. So now I can't say, I haven't played the game all the way through, so I don't know if there's any other instances.
Women do far outweigh men as victims in this game.
But that's been true in fantasy forever.
And it's just it's bad timing. It's not bad timing. I'm just saying it's odd timing for this to come out now when we're talking so much about women's portrayal in video games.
Yeah, with the is it Anita Sarkeesian? Is that her name?
Good one. Yes.
It's
Feminist Frequency.
With that stuff, with her putting those out every month or every few weeks.
With the stuff with the ESA party and it's not bad timing, but it's unfortunate timing that this drops now. Because we are talking about these things, they are forefront in the discussion of gaming.
But it might actually help Atlas out and sell a bunch of copies that they weren't going to sell before.
And I thought the cool thing was the Atlas PR guy showed up in the comments of the Polygon article and said, "Yeah, she's totally right to criticize the game like this. We're really glad you're all talking about it." But no, that doesn't mean she's a bad reviewer.
It's her opinion. She's entitled to her opinion.
It's a review of the game from this person's point of view.
Yeah, and from what I understand, most other websites gave it a
very good scores.
Like an 80 plus or something like that on most review sites.
And there were other female reviewers that gave it better reviews. And it's not like, the one thing I heard was one of the people from Joystick on the podcast, they asked her for a comment. They were like, "Well, aren't you offended by this? You're a woman." She's like, "No, just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I'm going to be offended by it." I get it's. Do you get the art style? Do you understand?
Do you understand why it has been done this way?
Yeah. Do you agree with the art style? No. Yes. That's how a review shakes out. But the internet just blew up.
Oh yeah, they're
like, "Oh my God!"
They lost their mind over one bad review on a game, and
how dare Jim Sterling say something I agree with?
Yeah, I know. And I was just gonna say, Jim Sterling he did his
Jimquisition.
Yeah, he did his show, and it was like, you know what? One guy or one person on the internet doesn't like what you like. That doesn't mean they're the scum of the earth.
Yeah,
it's their opinion. Suck it up.
Yep.
Don't read their articles for a while.
One thing I have to say
if you don't
for
like it, don't read it.
Negative comments, people just being hateful, you should just shut up. That's the one thing. If you want to get in the comment section and berate me and attack me or Dave or whatever, just shut up. You're not doing anything for yourself.
If you want to do it, fine. That's cool.
We want comments.
We'll just laugh.
Yeah.
I'll just be like, "Hey, that guy thinks I'm a tool." Well,
you're not going to hurt us. You're not going to hurt anybody. We're not going to get into it with you. Like we were talking last week with the Phil Fish, Marcus Beer thing.
Just going, I'm done with this.
Just be like, you know what? When someone says something asinine, you have to realize that there's a person on the other side of that.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're talking to that person. And if you wouldn't say that stuff in real life, you shouldn't say it in the comments. Because I read those Polygon comments, and oh my God.
Yeah, well, people on the internet are assholes.
I read some of the things that people tweet at Anita Sarkeesian, and I'm just like,
yeah,
what? Who would say that?
Guys who are jerks.
Yeah, we don't want them.
Dude bros.
Yeah, get out of our hobby. You're not cool. We don't need you
just because
here.
you play Madden.
Well, I'm not saying everyone that says Madden. I'm not saying these people play Madden,
I know.
But
I know. Not all Madden
if you're bringing the negativity, we don't need you here.
Yeah.
So,
but I see.
Focus on the good things about Dragon's Crown. If you came
it's
up,
a fun 4-player game.
Yeah, and I think Dragon's Crown is one of the must-own games for the Vita. I will recommend it to people.
Yeah,
I won't recommend it to all people.
You will recommend it to people who will get it.
Yeah.
And who won't be super offended by it.
This is the type of game.
And people who are on the fence would be like, "Here, play this for 10 minutes. Are you offended by anything you see?"
Yeah. People that the Vita needs more games like this, and we need to talk about more games like this.
Yeah.
I would say right now, Persona 4, Dragon's Crown, and Uncharted are those are the games I recommend to people. These are the reasons to buy a Vita. On the other side of the fence, on the 3DS, you have Mario Kart, that Ocarina of Time 3D version.
Yeah, the
Donkey Kong Returns.
Yeah.
Mario 3D Land. They have a bunch of games that are must-haves. The Vita needs more of these. We should celebrate that the Vita got one, instead of being huge dicks because someone didn't like it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it is the reason or one of the few reasons why you should buy a Vita. I think the reason that you should buy a Vita is because you'll be able to play all your PS4 games on it.
Because the Vita's the tits.
Yeah, I love.
See what I did there?
Speaking of, but yeah, I mean, it's not. I don't think it's a system pusher, right? Like you're not gonna sell systems because of Dragon's Crown, because
Well,
you'll be able
you
to buy it. You'll be able to buy it on the PS3.
I would say if it wasn't on the PS3, this would be a system pusher. But since it's on the PS3,
yeah, if it's on the
not
PS3 already and you
so
already
much.
have a PS3, then yeah, I'd probably.
Definitely, if you have both, get the Vita version because it's the better one. Even though there's slowdown.
Yeah, there is a bit of slowdown.
Being able to take it on the go and touch the screen when you have to get little artifacts is the best.
That was the other thing. Like when I was first playing it, I'm like, what are these little sparkly bits? And I start touching them. I'm like, oh, free
Random
money.
stuff pops out. Okay.
Pop, 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 pop. And then you have to, like, have you been touching all the doors to unlock
Yes.
the door? Yeah, so you get the different rooms.
I like the thief shows up and goes, I got this.
And he just runs up, does that, and then runs away.
I really like that's one thing I have to say about the elf is I love the elf's voice because it sounds like a little girl, but she's like, let's get him, let's do this.
Yeah. Well, she's
Ah!
and did you change the narrator voice to your character, or did you just change
No,
the narrator voice?
when I'm doing side quests, since it keeps reminding you what to do, that's when I change the narrator voice, so I hear it in different voices, so it doesn't get too repetitive.
Oh, so you'll just switch it up to the different ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like to bring the summation back to this, I think once again the Dragon's Crown controversy comes back to a legitimate argument about the art and whether or not you agree with how far the art was taken by the artist.
Yeah.
And that's a good conversation to have. The other controversy is this negativity, and I think this negativity comes back to what we've been talking about for a year plus of stop it. Like we go like stop with the negativity. Like start like look on the bright side of life and stop it.
Yeah, it's one thing to say I don't like this game and have reasons for it. It's another thing, or I don't like this reviewer because of whatever.
Yeah, I don't agree with her review because like
not just because of course she's gonna hate this game because
she's a woman.
Yeah, or
like I don't agree with her. Like there's a difference between I don't agree with this review because she's a woman, and I don't agree with this review because she didn't like this. I thought this was a better thing. The repetition wasn't so bad for me. Like
yeah, and you know what? If everybody was going to do a game review, everybody would have different things to pick at. Like no two reviews would ever be the same.
Yeah, you want the negative reviews. You want people to not like it.
You want someone to critically look at it and go, okay,
so that
this was from
a
non-game developer standpoint. This was not. This was not up to par on either this version or in general. Like I did not. Think this
so next time the artist goes back to make another game, hopefully George Kamatani will, we all know he will, and he goes, do I want to take this art so far knowing that I'll get the blowback? Okay, yeah, I'll do that. Or do I want to make this as repetitive as Dragon's Crown? Do I want to be able to find some way to switch up the dungeons?
Yeah.
Like in Dragon's Crown, I was really hoping there would be a deep dungeon delve thing, or
just like an endless dungeon thing.
And it's just kind of like you're going through the rooms from all the different dungeons mixed in together.
Yeah.
Like I thought that would be great. So I hope that's in there. If it's not, that'd be great DLC.
Yeah. At some point, you just get the go forever, and then every
the
boss,
survival dungeon.
Yeah. You just keep going, and then when you die or you get done, you get X thousands of.
So you want,
money.
as an artist, you want criticism, both as a reviewer and as an artist. But there's a difference between constructive criticism, and hey, you suck because you're a woman. And the negativity and the dumbassedness, please stop it. Because it's not our game's art. The audience needs to start acting like their art and start taking them with a matter of respect. Even things like Madden and Call of Duty and all these other things.
When you look at Madden or Forza or things like that, where they're getting as close to photorealistic in those games as possible. Like this is kind of silly, when I was playing Madden 10 years ago on the PS2, I was like, holy shit, this looks awesome.
Yeah, this looks like an actual football game.
Yeah, I mean...
When it zoomed in, less so.
Yeah. Once you zoomed in on your dude, it kind of went away. But from whatever standard camera distance it would look really good. Same thing with like Ridge Racer when it first came out.
Ridge Racer.
Yeah, but
so I mean, I think the negativity in this whole thing needs to go away because you're only making us look immature as an audience, and you're also reflecting poorly on the medium.
Yes.
George Kamatani's art, however you feel about it, should be able to stand on its own and be criticized on its own without millions of idiots going, well, of course it's awesome. I love her boobs. Jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. Like, people look at that shit and think about all of us that way.
Yeah, and you know what? It's the vocal minority that forms the opinion.
Screw the vocal minority.
It is, yeah, but I mean the vocal minority, positive or negative, is what forms the view of the mass media, like because they only go after the extremists. The guy in the middle, they never really go after.
Yep.
You never hear about Joe Blow. You always hear about Timmy the power gamer and Sammy the socio. Yes.
Anyway, so to wrap up, we both like Dragon's Crown.
Yeah,
I think it's an awesome game. I'm going to play it for a very long time.
The 2 hours I've put into it, I've enjoyed, and I believe once my wife gets to feeling better, I think we'll probably put a couple hours into it tomorrow or tonight.
But I don't always agree with where George Kamatani took the art style, even though I do like the art style.
Most of the art style is good. There's a couple of questionable things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So if you like this video, please click like. If you want to share this video with your friends, please click share. Please come back and see us next week. Leave a comment. We respond to the comments. Once again, follow us on Twitter at PixelBlips. We're also on Facebook. And don't forget to spay and neuter your Pokemon. We'll see you next week.